Never allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option. Let's really take that in for a second. How many times have we found ourselves giving everything, investing our energy, attention, and affection into someone who doesn't offer the same in return? Too often, we end up chasing people who keep us at arm's length, hoping one day they'll see our worth. But here's the hard truth. If they haven't made you a priority already, they likely never will. We owe it to ourselves to stop settling for being someone's afterthought. Our value is not up for debate, and it certainly isn't dependent on how much we're willing to give to those who barely notice us. Life becomes more fulfilling when we know our worth and protect it from people who can't appreciate it. Now, the most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Let that sink in too. We're all born for a reason, even if it takes years or decades to figure out what that is. Think of how incredible it feels when we start to see glimpses of that purpose. Those moments where everything aligns and we realize, this is why we're here. It's like a fire ignites within us, pushing us forward, driving us to become the person we're meant to be. But that journey isn't always straightforward. It's often filled with detours, setbacks, and moments of confusion, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. The key is not giving up on that search. When we find our purpose, it's not just about fulfilling some grand destiny. It's about living each day with meaning, with intention. That's the real magic. The more we learn about people, the more we begin to appreciate the purity of loyalty that doesn't demand anything in return, like the kind we get from a dog. There's something beautiful about that kind of companionship, isn't there? No need to pretend, no need to perform. Just simple, unconditional connection. And as we deal with the complexities of human relationships, we quickly realize that not everyone will support us or lift us higher. We must learn to keep our distance from those who belittle our dreams, because those kinds of people will only hold us back. The truth is, small-minded people will always try to make us feel small. But those who are truly great inspire us to see the greatness in ourselves. They show us that our ambitions are not too big, that our dreams are worth chasing, and that we are capable of achieving far more than we realize. Whenever we find ourselves on the side of the majority, it's time to take a step back and reflect. There's a kind of courage in not following the crowd, in being willing to question what everyone else accepts. Too often, we go along with the majority because it feels safer, easier. But truth and authenticity often live in the spaces where fewer people dare to tread. When we take the time to reflect on our own values, our own beliefs, that's when we grow. And speaking the truth, it's liberating. When we tell the truth, we don't have to remember anything. There's no need to keep up with lies, no mental burden of having to recall what was said. Honesty simplifies life and builds trust with those around us. Noise, on the other hand, often proves nothing. Think about it. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they're saying something valuable. There's an old saying about a hen who cackles as if she had laid an asteroid, when all she's done is laid an egg. We've all encountered those people who make a lot of noise but offer very little substance. It's important not to get distracted by the volume of what's being said, but to focus on the value of it. And never, under any circumstances, argue with stupid people. They will pull us down to their level and then beat us with experience. Sometimes, the smartest move we can make is to walk away from pointless debates, especially when the person we're dealing with has no interest in real understanding. Wrinkles should merely indicate where the smiles have been. That's a beautiful way to think about aging, isn't it? Every laugh, every moment of joy, every experience that brought us happiness is etched into our faces as a reminder of a life lived. Too often, we fear aging, as if growing older is something to avoid at all costs. But aging is a privilege. one denied to so many. Each year we grow older, we gain wisdom, experiences, and memories that shape us. Instead of worrying about looking young, we should embrace the stories that our years tell. Kindness is a language that the deaf can hear and the blind can see. In a world that sometimes feels harsh, where everyone seems to be in a rush to get ahead, kindness has the power to break through walls. It doesn't matter how much someone has or how successful they are, kindness speaks to the core of our humanity. When we take the time to be kind, we create connections that go beyond words. It's better to be an optimist who is occasionally wrong than a pessimist who is almost always right. Why? Because optimism fuels hope, and hope keeps us moving forward even in the face of challenges. When we try, we build resilience. We learn to endure adversity, not by avoiding hardship, but by facing it with courage and determination. No man or woman truly understands the depth of love until they've spent decades with someone. After a quarter of a century together, love becomes something deeper, something stronger. It's no longer about romance or passion, though those things are important. It's about partnership, about weathering life's storms together and coming out stronger on the other side. If everyone were completely satisfied with themselves, there would be no heroes. It's our drive to improve, to grow, and to reach for something greater that creates heroes. We're all capable of heroism, of becoming more than we ever thought possible. In life, we meet many people. Some of them will fade from our memories, and we from theirs. But then there are those rare individuals who leave a mark so deep we can't forget them. Those people are our true friends, the ones who stay with us in spirit, even if they're not always by our side. And as for the difference between man and a jackass, some would say there isn't much. But let's be fair, that's an insult to the jackass. In truth, we're all flawed. We all have moments where we stumble, but it's in those imperfections that we find our shared humanity. Have you ever wondered why something becomes more desirable the moment it's harder to get? This is a fascinating part of human psychology. When something is out of reach, our minds shift into overdrive, painting it as more valuable, even if it wasn't that appealing to begin with. Think about it. Whether it's a career goal, a material possession, or even a relationship, the more elusive it seems, the more we tend to crave it. It's as if the challenge itself is what we hunger for, not necessarily the thing. And here's the catch. This principle doesn't only apply to things we can't have. It also speaks to the opportunities we ignore. For example, a man who refuses to read has no advantage over a man who physically can't. In both cases, the door to knowledge is closed, one because he won't open it, the other because he simply can't. Yet, we often forget the power we have in those choices we make daily. Now let's talk about another date that sneaks up on us every year. April 1st. What's so special about this day? Well, it's a reminder. A reminder of the little foolishness that hides in all of us, but not just on this day. It's there for the other 364 days too. Life has a funny way of making us believe we're in control, but sometimes it's good to laugh at ourselves, to recognize our imperfections. Think about a banker. There's this saying that a banker is someone who lends you an umbrella when the sun is shining and asks for it back the moment it starts raining. It's a classic example of how some things appear to be helpful only until they're not. It makes us reflect on the support systems in our lives. Who's there for us when things get tough? And are we willing to extend that same generosity to others? When we face mistakes, there's another powerful truth at play. Acknowledging our faults openly, without hesitation, can be disarming. It catches people off guard. When we admit our wrongs, we create an opportunity, not just to fix the situation, but to earn respect. People in authority, or even peers, are often taken aback when we confront our own errors with humility. It's a simple, yet powerful tactic that can shift the balance in our favor, allowing us to take control of the narrative. Human nature is fascinating, isn't it? Our intellectual ability to distinguish right from wrong places us above other creatures. Yet our moral struggles sometimes prove otherwise. There are animals that act purely on instinct, and they don't have the capacity for moral failings. But us, we know better, and still, we often choose wrong. It's an ongoing tension that defines the human experience, our capacity for greatness coupled with our tendency to fall short. Have you ever noticed that people who are pessimists before the age of 48 often seem like they know too much about the world's harsh realities? And yet, if someone is still an optimist after 48, we might think they know too little. It's this balancing act we play as we age. How much should we let our experiences harden us, and how much should we remain open to hope? Life, with all its ups and downs, teaches us this delicate dance. Speaking of life lessons, here's one that may surprise you. One of the quickest ways to make an enemy is to do a stranger a favor. Strange, right? But when we help someone unexpectedly, it can sometimes plant a seed of resentment. Why? Because that act of kindness creates an invisible thread of obligation. The person may feel indebted, and instead of gratitude, they experience discomfort or irritation. It's one of those paradoxes in life. Good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes. But what about forgiveness? There's a beautiful analogy that says forgiveness is like the fragrance of violet leaves on the heel that has crushed it. It's an act of grace, something that lingers even after harm has been done. It's not about denying the pain, but rather about transcending it, leaving behind something sweeter in the process. And while we're on the subject of life's oddities, here's another gem. If you have to swallow a frog, don't stare at it too long. Meaning, if you have an unpleasant task to do, don't procrastinate. Just get it over with. Dwelling on it only makes it harder. Health, too, follows this principle. The only way to maintain it is often by doing things we don't particularly enjoy. Eating foods we don't crave, drinking what we don't particularly like, and engaging in activities we'd rather avoid. It's a paradox, but it's one we can't escape. And if you think about land, well, they're not making any more of it. It's a reminder of how limited our resources are, and how we must cherish what we have, not take it for granted. Doing something every day that we don't want to do is a golden rule for building discipline. It's about training ourselves to face discomfort so that when we need to rise to the occasion, it's not as painful as we once imagined. It builds resilience, strength, and ultimately, peace of mind. The lack of money is the root of all evil. We've all heard this phrase before, haven't we? It hits home because, deep down, we know the truth it carries. Financial stress has a way of twisting our priorities, making us act out of desperation. It's not so much the absence of money that causes trouble, but how we let that absence shape our choices, our character, and our behavior. When we feel deprived or desperate, it's easy to lose sight of what's truly important. But here's the thing. It's not just about how much money we have. It's about how we choose to respond to that pressure, how we maintain our values, and whether we let those values guide us or let the stress of financial burdens pull us away from who we really are. Always obey your parents when they are present. This is the best policy in the long run, because if you don't, they will make you. At first glance, this sounds like a rule we hear as children, but there's more to it. It's not about blind obedience or following orders just to avoid punishment. Think about it. Our parents have lived longer, seen more, and made their own mistakes. Their advice, even when it feels frustrating or limiting, often comes from a place of deep experience. When we're young, we want freedom, we crave independence, and that's natural. But as we grow, we start to see the wisdom in what they've tried to teach us. It's not about control, it's about protection, guidance, and the lessons they hope to pass on, even if we don't fully understand them at the time. Obeying them isn't just about following rules. It's about acknowledging that they've walked a path ahead of us and want to help us avoid the same pitfalls. Worrying is like paying a debt you don't owe. This one is powerful because how often do we get caught in the trap of worry, turning things over in our minds as if obsessing over them could somehow prevent the worst from happening? Worry steals our peace. It doesn't change the outcome of what we're fearing. It only robs us of the present moment. Imagine carrying around a heavy backpack full of stones, only to realize that none of those stones belong to you. That's what worry does. It weighs us down, makes us tired, and drains our energy, all for problems that may never even come to pass. When we stop worrying, we don't just lighten the load. We free ourselves to focus on what we can control, to act from a place of calm and clarity rather than fear. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. Isn't that true? How often do we look back with regret, not because we made a mistake, but because we didn't take the leap in the first place? Fear of failure holds us back. We hesitate, we overthink, we stay in our comfort zone because it's familiar. But in the long run, it's the risks we didn't take, the chances we passed up, that haunt us the most. Life isn't about avoiding failure. It's about embracing the opportunities that come our way, even if they're uncertain. When we try, when we put ourselves out there, we might stumble, but we also grow. We learn, and most importantly, we live without the regret of wondering what could have been. There is no easy or quick plan to happiness. In a world that promises fast fixes and instant results, this truth can be hard to accept. We're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us we can have it all right now if we just follow the latest trend or buy into the newest idea. But real happiness, the kind that sticks with us through life's ups and downs, isn't something we can find overnight. It's built slowly, day by day, through meaningful actions, through connections with others, and through living in alignment with our values. Happiness isn't a destination we arrive at, it's a journey. And the best part? Where you are right now is the best place to begin. We don't need to wait for the perfect circumstances or the ideal moment to start pursuing the life we want. The present moment, as imperfect as it may seem, holds everything we need to take that first step. Everyone is the moon and has a dark side, which he never shows to anybody. This idea speaks to something universal in all of us, the parts of ourselves we keep hidden, even from the people closest to us. We all have fears, insecurities, and experiences we don't share. Maybe we're afraid of being judged or misunderstood. But the truth is, these hidden parts are what make us human. They are what connect us to others, even if we can't always see it. When we acknowledge our own darkness, we start to realize that we're not alone in our struggles. Everyone around us has their own battles, their own hidden sides. And that understanding creates space for compassion, for empathy, for connection. Of all the animals, man is the only one that is cruel. He is the only one that inflicts pain for the pleasure of doing it. This can be a tough pill to swallow because it points to the darker side of human nature. We have the capacity for cruelty, for causing harm without reason. But let's not forget, we also have the capacity for kindness, for love, for healing. Yes, cruelty exists, but so does empathy. Every day, we make choices that either contribute to the pain in the world or to its healing. And it's those small, everyday choices that define who we are. We have the power to push back against cruelty by choosing compassion. Circumstances make man, not man circumstances. It's easy to feel trapped by the situations we find ourselves in, to believe that we are shaped entirely by what happens to us. But we have more agency than that. It's not the events in our lives that define us. It's how we respond to them. We can't control everything that happens, but we can control our reactions. We can choose to grow through adversity, to let our struggles shape us into stronger, more resilient people. Our character is forged in the fires of difficulty, and it's through those challenges that we truly discover who we are. Man was made at the end of the week's work when God was tired. There's humor in this idea, but there's also a reminder of our imperfection. We are flawed beings, prone to mistakes, and that's okay. We weren't made to be perfect. We were made to learn, to grow, to evolve through our imperfections. And it's through those very imperfections that we find our humanity, our ability to connect with others and with the world around us. The truth must be served like a coat and not thrown in the face like a wet towel. Truth, when delivered harshly, can alienate, can create walls between people. But when it's offered gently, with understanding, it has the power to transform. The way we present truth matters. It's not just about what we say, but how we say it. When we offer truth with compassion, it becomes something that can be received, something that can lead to real change. The trouble is not in dying for a friend, but in finding a friend worth dying for. True friendship is rare and precious. It's not about having many acquaintances, but about finding those few people who truly understand us, who stand by us through thick and thin. Those are the relationships worth nurturing, the ones that make life richer and more meaningful. Live with intention. Let's embrace the present, take risks, and trust in the process of growth. The world doesn't owe us anything, but we owe it to ourselves to make the most of what we have, to live fully, and to take every opportunity that comes our way. Man will do many things to get himself loved. He will do all things to get himself envied. This simple truth reveals a deep hunger within us. We crave admiration, approval, and that elusive sense of validation from others. And in that pursuit, we often lose sight of who we really are. It's as though we become actors on a stage, performing for the applause of an audience whose opinions we barely know. But envy, while intoxicating, leaves us empty. It gnaws at our sense of self-worth, making us strive for more, even when we've achieved all we thought would make us content. When we speak of beauty, we tend to judge it from a distance. It's only after spending time with a truly beautiful woman that we begin to appreciate her in a deeper way. Beauty is not just the external charm, it's the way she carries herself, the grace in her gestures, the thoughts she nurtures, and the essence of who she is. Only through genuine acquaintance can we peel back the layers, revealing the soul beneath the surface. In the same way, it takes time to understand and appreciate the beauty of life itself. And yet, so often, we rush to fill the silence with words, eager to make a point, to prove we know something. But isn't there wisdom in restraint? It's better to keep our mouths shut and appear stupid than to open them and remove all doubt. Silence has power. It invites reflection, allowing us to absorb rather than react. When we speak thoughtlessly, we strip away the opportunity for learning, for growth. Instead, we should learn to value the quiet, letting it guide us toward understanding rather than filling the void with unnecessary noise. Consider our efforts, the work we put into the world. We may compare ourselves to those we admire, believing their accomplishments are grander, more valuable than our own. But here's the truth. Our works are like water, simple, pure, and essential. The works of the great masters may be like wine, rich, refined, admired, but everyone drinks water. It sustains life. So rather than diminish the value of what we create, let's remember that our contributions, though different, are no less meaningful. We often shy away from talking about death, but what if we didn't fear it? We've been dead for billions of years before we were born and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Life and death are part of the same cycle. Fearing death is only a reflection of our fear of living. When we embrace life fully, we come to realize that death, like birth, is simply a transition. We've faced countless changes, and death is just another transformation we must accept without dread. Now, consider the power of truth. A half-truth is the most cowardly of lies because it masquerades as honesty, yet deceives in the most insidious way. When we fish for love, it's tempting to bait with cleverness, to use our brains to strategize, but real love can only be caught with the heart. When we are genuine, when we open ourselves up fully, we draw in connections that are lasting and true. To do right is to stand out, to be conspicuous in a world where so many choose the easier path of deceit or shortcuts. But what of the world around us? It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they've been fooled. Human nature clings to its beliefs, even in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. This speaks to our deep-seated fear of being wrong, our unwillingness to confront uncomfortable truths. And yet, a man without morals is lost. Even bad morals are better than none because, at the very least, they anchor us to some form of integrity, some sense of direction, even if it's misguided. When we make promises, they carry weight. Better a broken promise than none at all. For in making a promise, we demonstrate our intent, our willingness to strive towards something meaningful, even if we falter along the way. Courage, then, is not the absence of fear, but the resistance to it, the mastery over it. We may feel fear, but that doesn't mean we let it control us. We act in spite of it. Too often we hear that actions speak louder than words, but it's fear that speaks louder than both, though not nearly as often. The fear of death, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, all of these speak to our innermost vulnerabilities. Yet, if we live fully, if we embrace life without hesitation, we find that we are always prepared for whatever comes next, even death. We must first get our facts straight before we can even begin to twist them. Anger is an acid, capable of destroying more within us than anything on which it's poured. If we harbor anger, it eats away at our peace of mind, leaving us more damaged than those we aim to hurt. And money, though powerful, will never be as respectable as virtue. We all know that a good example is hard to live up to. It's an annoyance because it challenges us to rise higher. Nothing needs reforming as much as other people's habits, or so we think. We fixate on the faults of others because it's easier than facing our own. But when we do earn something, how little it takes to make us truly happy. It's the small things, the earned moments, that bring the deepest joy. Have you ever taken a moment to ponder the essence of our existence? What truly shapes the way we lead our lives? It's fascinating to consider that a man may completely avoid bad habits, yet still harbor something worse. Habits that linger silently, eating away at our sense of self. We often strive so diligently to earn the approval of others, going to great lengths to gain their validation. But here's the thing, that fleeting acknowledgement from the outside world pales in comparison to the profound satisfaction we can find within ourselves. How many of us can genuinely say we hold a deep appreciation for who we are? One tool stands out as remarkably effective for navigating its challenges: laughter. It's more than just a reaction to humor. It's a crucial coping mechanism. When life throws its challenges our way, when stress looms large, laughter becomes our refuge. It allows us to step back, take a breath, and remind ourselves that no circumstance has absolute power over us. It's a liberating release, a small but mighty shield we can wield against adversity. We've all heard the saying, if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. If you do, you're misinformed. This phrase carries significant weight, doesn't it? We find ourselves inundated with a barrage of opinions, sensational stories, and misleading narratives. The truth can feel elusive amidst the chaos. That's why we must cultivate discernment, an ability to sift through the noise and recognize what genuinely resonates with our inner compass. But life isn't just about striving for approval or working tirelessly. It's also about savoring those moments that often go unnoticed. Imagine a world where we work as if financial gain doesn't matter, where we dance freely as if no one is observing, and where we love with open hearts, untouched by past wounds. That's when we come alive, isn't it? Yet isn't it a bit disheartening how quickly life shifts from one worry to another? Just when we feel we found a moment of tranquility, something new comes along to disrupt it. We often reflect on our relationships with others, especially as we mature. In our youth, it's easy to perceive our parents as out of touch, even foolish. Yet, as the years pass, we gain a newfound appreciation for the wisdom they possess. We come to realize that true insight often emerges in the quiet moments of reflection. The older we get, the more we learn that a sound heart frequently guides us better than an ill-trained conscience. Love, empathy, and understanding can steer us in directions that rules and regulations never could. When we approach the end of our lives, it won't be the accolades or achievements that weigh on our hearts. No, it will be the moments of love we neglected to express, the experiences we hesitated to embrace. Each of our lives is remarkable, bursting with potential. The memories we create, even those touched by hardship, can transform into beautiful stories as time passes. The small irritations we once felt often fade into distant memories. Isn't it intriguing that conscience seems to occupy more space within us than any other aspect of our being? Temptation is a constant companion in our lives. While we might find various defenses against it, sometimes the simplest and most effective protection is our fear. An honest, if unglamorous, shield. We all know that engaging in arguments with fools is a fruitless endeavor. Those observing might not even discern who the true fool is. So, what's the point in trying? We realize that life is unpredictable, and sometimes the greatest inventions come from sheer accidents. It's a humbling reminder that chaos can give birth to brilliance. Even in politics, there's a lesson. Politicians are like diapers. They need to be changed frequently for good reason. Moreover, the quest for respect can be a paradox. While we demand respect from others, deep down, how many of us truly respect ourselves? It's a heavy realization, isn't it? As the years unfold, memory can become an elusive companion. We often grapple with recalling events, questioning their authenticity. Eventually, we may find ourselves only able to remember things that never actually occurred. It's a bittersweet experience, watching the gradual unraveling of our faculties. In this decline lies a universal truth. We all must confront the impermanence of life. Yet within this realization lies a melancholy beauty, a poignant reminder that time is fleeting. Humor, intriguingly, often springs not from joy but from sorrow. A clever coping strategy for the intricacies of our existence. It's the ability to find light in dark times that becomes our most cherished trait. Words possess tremendous power, yet sometimes it's the silences that speak the loudest. In those moments that truly matter, the pauses can convey more meaning than any sentence ever could. There's something inherently tragic about a young pessimist, a living contradiction to the very potential that youth embodies. Optimism isn't naive, it's necessary. We must take the world as we find it, with all its flaws and imperfections, and learn to navigate its unpredictability with grace. When it comes to matters of the heart, let's not fool ourselves into thinking it can be reasoned with. The heart marches to the beat of its own drum, often ignoring the warnings of the intellect. It pulses with passions that logic simply can't contain. This is the beauty and the challenge of being human. By the time we reach 40, many of our habits have hardened, turning into the core of who we are. But we must be wise in what we allow to crystallize within us. Let's extract the wisdom from our experiences and leave behind the weight of unnecessary burdens. Holding on to the wrong things only drags us down. One principle that never fails: speaking the truth. It's a remarkable weapon that confounds our enemies and astounds our friends. Truth is simple, yet its impact is profound. And while we're on the topic of truth, let's remember this: Our opinions do not truly blossom until they are shared with others. Dialogue, conversation, connection. These are the crucibles where our ideas are forged and strengthened. We grow in community, not in isolation. Truth, however, is a precious resource, and like all precious things, we must use it wisely. Life, after all, isn't defined by a series of facts or events. It's more about the inner landscape of our thoughts, the continuous swirl of emotions and ideas that shape our reality. And let's face it, a man is never more truthful than when he admits to being a liar. It's a startling paradox, but one that reveals the layers of complexity in each of us. We often find ourselves drawn to the extremes, don't we? The exquisitely bad can be just as satisfying to the soul as the exquisitely good. What we can't tolerate is mediocrity, the bland middle ground where nothing stands out, nothing challenges us. And speaking of challenges, a true gentleman knows when to keep certain truths to himself, especially in the company of those who may not be prepared to handle them. Social interactions are delicate, and it takes wisdom to navigate them with care. We may say that honesty is the best policy, but let's not forget that for some, truth is a currency only spent when there's a tangible benefit. And then there are those who lie, even when the truth would serve them better. A habit that speaks to the complicated relationship between honesty and perception. It's not just about what we say, it's about how it's received and how it resonates with those around us. This is the art of living, learning to balance the chaos of emotion with the clarity of thought, to embrace both the primal and the refined aspects of our nature. And in that balance, we find our true strength. A clever person understands the rules, but a truly insightful individual knows how to navigate the delicate nuances of communication, whether in a courtroom or everyday life. In a world rife with deception, honesty emerges as a valuable and rare currency. Mastering this art bestows a profound power that far exceeds the capabilities of trickery. Remember that the answers we seek often lie in the spaces between our experiences, in the laughter and the tears, the noise and the quiet, the things we believe we know and those we have yet to discover. Life is a complex journey, just like each of us, but that complexity is precisely what makes it worth living. So, let's embrace it all, every single moment, and find joy in the chaos and beauty of our shared human experience. When anger swells, count to 4. When extremely enraged, a well-placed curse word can offer relief that even prayer cannot provide. This is a strange paradox, yet it highlights something fundamental about the human experience. There's a rawness, a primal aspect of emotion that defies our rational instincts, reminding us of our untamed edges. We often think we are masters of our feelings, but in those heated moments, it becomes clear that emotions sometimes manage us. And that's okay. It's part of being human. Be careless in your dress if you must, but always keep a tidy soul. Think about that for a moment. This is about more than appearances. It's about living with purpose, with integrity. Our soul is the center of who we are, and if that remains intact, everything else falls into place. It's when we lose sight of this internal compass that we become vulnerable to the storms life throws at us. And believe me, those storms will come. Prosperity, then, acts as the best protector of principle. Not because money itself is a savior, but because it frees us from the ethical dilemmas that often come with financial insecurity. When we're not constantly in survival mode, we have the space to act in alignment with our deepest values. Why do we chase what's out of reach? It's because we are drawn to mystery, to the thrill of the unknown. The moment we label something off limits, it gains a power over us, illuminating the complexities of human desire. But here's the twist. That allure, that chase, often distracts us from what truly matters. When we learn to focus on life appropriately, we realize that nothing is trivial. Every event, every moment, is a lesson waiting to unfold. Disappointment, for instance, isn't something to fear. A man has no business being disheartened by it. Instead, it's an opportunity to recalibrate, to get even, not in a vengeful way, but in a way that transforms setbacks into stepping stones. Every failure is a foundation for growth, and those who understand this have a distinct advantage. They know that pessimism, especially in youth, is the saddest sight of all. The key to achieving true success often lies in a profound shift in perspective, transforming what we do from a mere job into a delightful vacation. Imagine this. When we truly adore our work, it no longer feels like a burden, but rather an exciting adventure. Each morning becomes an opportunity to explore new ideas, connect with others, and indulge in the joy of creativity. It's all about that feeling of passion igniting our spirits and fueling our motivation. Through the fiery trials we endure, we learn the most valuable morals. It's often in our missteps and stumbles that we gather wisdom, and that wisdom shapes our character. Each mistake isn't just a setback. It's a chance to evolve, to grow, and to become more resilient. We've all had those moments, haven't we? Moments when we grapple with honesty, trying to tell a lie so convincing that no one would question it, or sharing a truth that feels heavy and is met with skepticism. This intricate dance of communication reflects the complexities of our humanity. Being virtuous can sometimes feel like a lonely road. In a world that often thrives on drama, choosing kindness can isolate us. Yet the wisdom remains. When we find work that ignites our souls, we discover a life where we never truly work a day. The joy is in the journey, in those little everyday comforts that remind us of what really matters. Even in the mundane, we can find extraordinary moments of peace and fulfillment. When we unleash our unique gifts into the world, the pleasure derived from self-expression becomes our greatest joy. Courage, too, is an interesting topic. To believe oneself courageous is, in itself, an act of bravery. It doesn't require applause or accolades. It simply exists within us. Have you ever noticed how we can only be surprised by something so many times? Each new experience adds a layer to our understanding of the world around us. Yet, we often find ourselves encountering individuals capable of remarkable achievements who struggle to share their joy with those around them. It's a poignant reminder of the limits of our connections. And let's not underestimate the power of laughter. There's something truly magical about it. It's a force that no negativity can withstand. Words matter, don't they? The difference between saying something that's almost right and saying the exact right word can be monumental. It's like the difference between the flicker of a firefly and the blinding flash of lightning. A reminder of how critical our language can be in shaping our reality. In each person we meet, there's something worthy of respect and admiration. A baby, with its pure innocence, symbolizes an unquantifiable blessing. But here's the thing. With enough imagination, we can reshape our reality. Sometimes sanity and happiness intertwine in confusing ways, creating tension within our lives. Censorship, in its most absurd form, is like telling a person they can't enjoy a steak simply because a baby can't chew it, highlighting the ridiculous nature of such restrictions. Those who radiate true happiness naturally spread joy to others, creating a beautiful ripple effect in our interconnected lives. Yes, thunder may captivate our attention, but it's the lightning that does the real work, serving as a metaphor for the unseen forces that drive transformation. And let's reflect on our desires. Unexpected financial gain brings delight, yet it can quickly sour if we start expecting more, revealing the intricacies of our human nature. The weakest virtue is one that has never been tested. Life often seems unfair, where those who deserve recognition and rewards might go unnoticed, while others, unworthy of praise, bask in accolades. Laws might govern behavior, but it is our character that truly shapes who we are. We each have our own paths to tread, and it's through these individual journeys that we gain the most profound insights. Our habits may serve as shields, protecting our lives, yet they could stifle someone else's growth. We must recognize two vital moments in life when speculation is best avoided: when we can't afford to take risks, and when we can. Grief can be a teacher in itself, but to savor joy fully, we must share it with others. It's far better to be someone who deserves accolades without receiving them than to hold honors we haven't earned. Our integrity far outweighs any external validation. Consider this. A truth may not be hard to extinguish, but a well-spun lie possesses a certain immortality. Patriotism can often manifest as loud proclamations, yet those who shout the loudest may lack a true understanding of their message. We must never let our formal education interfere with our learning. There are countless untapped geniuses who live and die unnoticed, which is a tragic reflection of unrecognized potential in our world. The lament of how hard it is that we must die echoes particularly from those who've endured life's tribulations. We often find ourselves seeking validation for talents we don't have more than appreciating the skills we truly possess. Embracing continuous improvement is far more meaningful than chasing after perfection. It is a vital lesson in our journey toward growth. Remember, no grief is insignificant. The loss of a child's beloved toy holds the same weight as the loss of a king's crown in the tapestry of existence. So let's be wise and guard our truths, revealing them only to those who can appreciate their value. A full stomach means little if the mind remains starved for knowledge. Have you ever noticed that the best way to discover our true feelings about someone is through shared journeys? Travel together, and you will see the best and worst emerge from both parties. In the end, let's remember that being busy often brings happiness. Our purpose frequently emerges through our engagement with life. Good friends, insightful books, and a peaceful conscience contribute to an ideal existence, a beautiful aspiration worth striving for. As we reflect on our experiences, let's not forget the myriad of troubles we have faced, most of which never truly materialized. This serves as a poignant reminder of the complexity of human existence, where fear often overshadows reality, leading our minds to create illusions that distract us from the truth of our lives. As we navigate this journey together, let's embrace our paths, learn from our experiences, and celebrate the beauty of our shared humanity. We have so much to offer each other, and together we can cultivate understanding, foster connection, and illuminate the world with our collective light.